Welcome to another episode of the Sales Manager Academy podcast. As always, I'm your host, Omar, and we talk about leadership in the boutique retail world. What does that mean? We're talking about smaller companies. We're talking about, small mom and pop shops. We're talking about mid-sized companies. This is typically like your wireless retail, your AV locations, your appliance stores, things that you wouldn't deal with in a traditional like big box retailer. These people are a little bit more slimmer when it comes to the amount of staffing headcount that we have, right? We're running leaner, uh, more aggressive on the headcount portion. We're talking base plus commission typically. Okay, so as a leader, you have to really know what you're doing so that you're not constantly churning and burning your employees. And I know that's what it feels like most of the time, because unfortunately, that's the reality of most of your retail locations is you don't have an actual system to keep people from quitting and leaving and being able to replace those people that do leave in a truly successful manner that produces better results. And today we're going to be talking about the new hire hangover, okay, and why hiring is quietly costing you more than what it actually makes in return. And what we're talking about, okay, is that we know typically that your biggest expense is payroll. The reality of the fact is it's not payroll, it's failed hiring. Because if you can't prove new reps can break even by the 90th day, you don't have a hiring plan. You have an expensive habit. And even by saying, but Omar, it takes so long for new hire to really be competent in what they're doing. I know, I get it. I've had new hires and I tell them I don't expect you by the end of year one to be able to complete 90%. Okay, over 90%. I don't expect you to do 100%. What I expect is that you're going to be about 80% competent in what we do. And by year two, that's going to get you closer to 100%. But there's going to be a lot of things that you're not going to run into that is going to still leave you kind of like, what do I do even after a year? And that's perfectly normal. But my goal is to be able to get you to this competency level by X period of time so that by, day 45 to 90, you're already producing like if you were a tenured veteran. Okay? You're producing great results so that we could only become better over time. But I'm going to give you a roadmap that we're going to follow to be able to accomplish this. And that's going to be my promise. That's going to be what I'm going to be working, towards for you. The only thing I ask in return is that you do your utmost and you ask all the questions and you make mistakes along the way. That way we can learn from those mistakes. Okay? And that's the biggest thing. But guess what? Most of you guys don't have a roadmap. Most of you guys don't have any milestones. We're going to be talking about a few of those things today. But the biggest topics we're going to be talking about are going to be these three things. Okay? Knowing the real cost of hire. It's not board fees. It's not job placement fees. Okay? So you need to understand that. We're going to be talking about the 90-day milestone window. Okay? If you're an owner operator or if your bonus, your commission, whatever you get paid as a leader is tied to P&L, you can look at it as like the 90-day profit protection window. And then the third thing we're going to be talking about is going to be lowering your cost per hire, your CPH, by fixing the front end of things. And the surprising thing is that this is also going to widen your talent pool. That's going to be a very important thing because a lot of y'all complain, I can't find people. I can't find those top sellers and yada, yada, yada. We're going to find a way to be able to widen that talent pool. So bear with me. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments and we'll go from there. But first and foremost, knowing your true cost per hire. It's not, okay, well, if an employee leaves, I have this lost productivity, and then I have, these job placement fees or whatever. No. It's not that. It is far from that. The full equation is recruiting spend. Yes, okay. Job placement ad's going to be part of that. If you have an actual recruiting department, it's going to be part of that. But then we're talking about your manager's time, okay? Interviewings, onboarding, the prep before or after interviewing, the follow-up. We're going to be talking about paid trainings, right? We're talking about draws if you have that. We're talking about, the uniforms, credentials that they need for access to certain systems. We're talking about those systems and the licenses to those systems because each individual login needs its own license. You guys know this. And then we're talking about the lost productivity on the sales floor. And what does that mean? Because you're not pulling just your managers. You're also asking your top sellers and their other peers to also actively participate in their training. And that leads to lost productivity over the long term. When you're talking about your managers, their time is not free. It's not like they have this boku amount of time just readily available for everything that you need on a whim. It doesn't work that way. Because think about it this way: per interview, you're talking a minimum of 2 hours, right, for prep per interview or interviewee. Because we're talking about the phone interview, we're talking about going through their resume, we're talking about the actual interview, which will last, for a bad interview, 15 to 30 minutes. For a good interview, right, up to 45 to maybe an hour long, right, as far as minutes go. Okay. And you're talking about the prep before that, and then the prep after that, the notes. I didn't like them because of this. I liked them because of this. Let's move them forward. Yada yada. Okay. So it does take time on that. And then think about it. You have to replace, or you have to, find 5 people. If it takes on average 2 3 hours, you're taking 10 to 15 hours away from your leaders to be able to accomplish this. That is a huge thing that you're doing. And you have to think about that when you're talking about being able to replace and find new people. Because if you're also asking that same manager to produce X, Y, and Z, and then throwing this on top of them, they got to prioritize. And as a leader, if you don't know how to prioritize what's important, that's also going to bite you in the ass. So you have to take care of certain things for yourself to ensure you have the things that are prioritized first and knock those out. Then you also have to learn how to delegate. Okay, but those are topics for other days. When you're talking about your new hires as well, you're talking about their paid trainings and their draws if you have that. Okay, you got to make sure that they're up and knowledgeable on the plans, the promotions, the devices, because honestly, even your tenured reps still struggle at this. If you look at their commissions, if you look at what they sell the most, and you notice that they sell a lot of this, but they really don't sell anything else, it's because they've figured something out about this that they truly understand and can grasp, and everything else, there's still a lack of knowledge. They still have to bridge that information gap. And that knowledge gap is also what's costing you as an organization money, because there's so much potential that could have been included if that knowledge gap had been closed. All right. But think about it. Even if your tenured reps struggle with that, imagine how your new hires feel, because it's an overwhelming amount of information being thrown at them. Super important to keep that in mind. It's not their job to know everything by week 2. That is not their job. That is you as a leader in an organization. You are responsible for that. Making sure they have an ability and a way to move forward to learn that information, because otherwise they're going to struggle and it's going to take them longer. So from, day 1 to day 90, they're not going to hit those milestones if you just leave it up to chance, because that's what you're doing when you leave it up to them. It doesn't matter what their experience is beforehand, because there's still things in your process as a company that will trip them up and make things harder. And that could be their Achilles heel. So you have to understand that aspect. This is why you don't want to just look for unicorns. Okay? Keep that in mind. And then talk about your lost productivity on the sales floor, because you're pulling your leaders away to be able to do their trainings, their interviewing, their onboarding, all of that, and that takes time. That's also time that's being taken away from coaching, from focusing on sales, right, driving sales, and also the operations that got to get taken care of. And especially if you're harking on them, no OT. Okay, when is this going to get done? So super important for you to truly understand those costs. And for your new hires, if you're not tracking their KPIs and where they're at in that 90-day process, it's going to cost you more money, because they will not stick around. They're going to end up leaving sooner than later, because they see the place is a mess. They see that there's no way forward, that everybody's like a chicken with their head cut off, and they don't want to be part of that. So now you brought somebody on board. You spent all this time and energy, and now you got to do it all over again. That puts you back, at square one. And that's what you don't want to do. You have to have a plan forward. You have to have a system to move forward. And that's where we talk about that 90-day milestone. Okay? The 90-day milestones that you want to hit. Or for you, that are owner operators or that are getting your bonuses from P&L, it's your 90-day profit protection window. This is when most new hires leave, because they're like, screw this. Why am I still here? Okay, let me just find something else. Boom. Now, milestones are super important because that allows you to understand where they should be and allows them to also understand what they should know by certain points, right? A simple little thing would be like by day 7, they should know how to be able to greet and ask discovery questions to see why somebody is at a location or they came in. Uh, by day 30, they should be able to talk about whatever plans or protections, warranties, or financing pitches they have easily, right? They have something that they can work in. I'm not saying it's 100%, but they at least understand that this is what I need and this is what I've developed, this is what I'm working on, this is what I'm using, and I'm going to improve it. But they have a starting point. They have something, right? By day 60, show them how to do proper follow-ups with customers, right? Making sure they understand how to be able to input it into the system, be able to follow up what good notes look like. You guys, I know you understand this part, what good notes look like or scope of works, right? As a leader, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But this is where you develop this. This is where you instill this. Okay? Because they understand by X date, I need to know how to do this. By the 90th day, they know how to be able to do like 80%. They're not perfect by any means, but they're able to do it. I'm not saying they can completely do everything, but they know how to do the process. They're going to get, stuck up from time to time. And that's fine. They're going to get tripped up. It happens to everybody. But when they're new still, hey, at least they're knowing by X period of times, I should know this by this day, this by this day. Boom. It gives them a true path forward and it allows them to level up. Think of it as a video game. It allows them to literally level up their skills and they feel like they've accomplished something. And that feeling of accomplishment also leads to confidence. And that level of confidence also leads to motivation. And you see how you start snowball effect on that? Where now they want to do more because they feel that they've actually are becoming a master of the craft. It is simple as that. By setting them on the right path, by doing something as simple as setting up a milestone. Super simple, guys. But it's these little things because you do have to track it. As a leader, if you give them milestones but you don't track it, might as well not give it to them because they don't know how they're doing if they're not getting any feedback. That's why coachings are important. You want to be able to do, weekly skill audits or monthly reviews, whether it's with you or if you're a regional, DM, an area sales manager, sales leader, making sure they know who they're going to be having those check-ins with, and then they have the larger check-in window with you. So the weekly check-ins with the local leader, the monthly reviews with you. That way they have an understanding of, okay, I'm doing good, I'm progressing, and they're getting that feedback. And guys, we know this. These don't have to be an hour, 2 hour long sessions. They should not be by any means. Quick 15-minute coaching sessions, super long way, okay? It goes a super long way. Because imagine, you can do 10, 15-minute sessions in a 30-day, window, in a 30-day period. That's going to beat out a 1-2 hour classroom day or coaching session because it gives them, time to do tasks and feedback in between those coaching sessions. So they know, oh, this is what I was missing. Boom, I can correct it. And now we're doing that follow-up coaching session. Yeah, I'm doing great. This is what I did. Okay. They're able to they're taking micro lessons, right? We're breaking these down into micro lessons for them to be able to use, micro tasks. And they're accomplishing those micro tasks. And once again, when they accomplish little tasks, it allows them to feel like they're leveling up, and that confidence of mastery starts to really inundate them. It's really something that they start to develop and take in, and it allows them to be more confident in what they're doing, and it allows them to motivate themselves and become more motivated that they're learning and mastering something, so they want to do more of it. And that's how you develop that. If you want to call it urgency, fine. If you want to call it your team culture, it's a start. So it goes a very long way. And then allows you to also make sure that you're not ignoring that break-even point from bringing those new hires in. Most importantly, you're not giving them a reason to want to quit by the 90th day. Quit within that 3 month period or 6 month period, whatever the case is. If you're doing the numbers right, you should know when most of your new hires are leaving by. And that's what you want to fix. Because it doesn't matter how many people you hire on the front end if you're losing 70% of them on the back end by a certain date. It's not, oh, they couldn't hack it. No, they could hack it. You just have no fucking system. You got to take ownership for the things that you're at fault of. And there's nothing wrong with saying, I didn't know this and I didn't have this developed. But now that I know it, I want this developed. I'm going to take time to learn this, to develop this. And that's where you have to go as a leader. Okay? So stop asking, how fast is my team learning? Okay? Because it's not about how fast they're learning, it's how they're developing. Because we're not asking them to memorize things. We're asking them to create and skills. I don't care what anybody says. None of your salespeople are unskilled labor. It takes skill to do what they do. Because you can't obviously pick somebody off the street and have them learn it on day one and become a master at it after a single day. It doesn't work that way. It takes time to develop these skills. And you have to develop the craft. Just like in any other skilled labor craft. It's the exact same thing with what we're doing. Now, from there, you need to learn how to lower your cost per hire. And you do that by fixing your front end. And what does that mean? What does fixing my front end mean when it comes to, new hires? It's simple. Stop unicorn hunting. Stop looking for top salespeople that just have the it factor. Quit. Stop doing that shit. It's the most annoying thing. That's what leads to most of your people quitting right away and you building toxic work teams that just don't vibe together and can't work as a team to save their fucking ass. So stop trying to over-index on natural closers. You're not going to do it. Unless you're paying top dollar, you're not going to find them. Period. They don't want to work for you. It's a hard pill to swallow, but that's the truth. That is why you can't find natural closers. Or why you do find them, but they just leave. Stop doing that. Hire for coachability. Build skills with your system. Because when you can build those skills and you can hire for coachability, you open up the talent pool so vastly that you can find really great candidates and it's going to go a very long way. They're going to stay. They're going to grow. They're going to help develop others. They're going to help the organization overall. That is the difference. That is super important. And a lot of people don't truly understand that. Because, yeah, it does take a little bit of time on the front end. But on the back end, it solves so much headaches, stops so much financial bleeding, and it reduces the churn, employee churn, which reduces, the effect of bad morale on your teams because it increases team morale. That's one of the most beautiful things, guys. So you have to have some way of being able to, test or score, right? Have some kind of rubric when you're doing interviews. You don't want to just go off of vibes, because that's the worst thing. Because that's not coachable. That's not teachable to other people. A thing like having a 5-question STAR interview process that exposes problem solving, follow through, and receptivity to coaching, that goes a longer way. Why? Because it doesn't matter their industries. Those things you can at least be able to track and measure. And guess what? They're same human signals with different products or industries that they're coming from, but it gives you a great idea into their problem solving, into how they process information. And that allows you to know, is this person going to be coachable? Yes or no? Is this somebody I would want to have on my team? Am I going to be, as a leader, able to work with this individual? Because not just can this person do well in the company, it's also can I, as a leader, do well for this individual? or are we going to be a mismatch? So that's super, super important. And then when you start doing that, you're going to start seeing that their onboarding, their 90-day checklist, their 90-day milestone map that you have is going to get shortened because they're coachable, because you're got them on a system. They want to do better. And when they have that confidence that, hey, I'm on track and I'm actually doing better than what I should be at right now, they start taking it upon themselves to do even more. And guys, I mean, talk about that. That is an amazing, amazing feeling for them. And it goes such a long way that they start to actually do more. So instead of being a 90-day milestone period, it gets shortened. But no, as a leader, as a company, don't shorten that window from 90 days to 60 or 45. Don't don't fall into that temptation. Don't fall into that trap. Because when you do that, now they feel overwhelmed, and when they miss those milestone marks, now they feel defeated instead of confident. Now they feel they're not on the right path. Now they feel they're not a good fit for what they're supposed to be doing. You see how that's a big difference? You have to have that in mind. Okay. And also, don't hire just individuals. Start them in groups. Why? Because when you do follow-up sessions as a leader, it's easier to do it as a group session, okay, than it is for individuals. So as a leader, it takes less time away from you. And I'm talking about, area, district, regionals. Okay, it takes less time away from you to be able to focus on doing this. So you're able to focus on the development of your other people, on driving the sales for the entire, market, district, area that you have. So you're placing it as opposed to, well, I'm going to hire them all at, different stages, different time frames. So now I got to be at every single one because everybody's going to be kind of at a different level. But when you bring them in as a group, it allows you to go through a lot together. And they also have people that they can kind of lean on, ask questions, and they could also reach out to each other. And also, some of them are going to kind of want to challenge it. Oh, I did this by this. Oh, I got this by this date. Okay? They're going to start pushing themselves as well. So that's a beautiful thing. So now they have that cohesiveness as a unit, as a team, even if they're not at the same locations. But little things like that goes a long way. Now you're gamifying the process of hiring and bringing people on board. And that creates a stickiness of people wanting to stay longer. It's these little things, guys. It's these little things that make a huge difference. Okay? So systemize your interview process. Systemize your onboarding. Have a 90-day milestone. Okay? And you're going to see that your cost per hire is going to drop while your retention is going to go up. And that's going to lead to better sales, better performance. And as an organization, it's going to allow you to actually not just maintain, but grow. Because you're going to start seeing that, hey, they can produce more with same or less than we were doing before. It's going to go a long way, guys. So hiring isn't growth if it never breaks even. You got to understand that. Measure the real cost. Coach throughout the first 90 days like your margin depends on it. Okay, like your commission, your bonus depends on it. Because it honestly does. And stop gambling on trying to find those unicorn sellers, on those top A sellers, on those sharks. Stop gambling on that. It's not going to happen. Be real with what you got. Okay? You might get, lucky once in a while, but it isn't going to be a consistent thing. It's not something you can coach and train, develop, and especially when you grow. When you start to have more locations in the same pond, okay, in the same blue ocean, you start taking away from yourself. So you don't actually have the same size pool to choose from. So you have to think about those stuff. It goes a long way. Okay. So I'm going to leave it there for today. As always, guys, make sure to follow me so that you can keep up on these videos. And if you have any questions, drop a comment, send a DM. I'd love to hear from you guys. Okay. So thanks, guys, for spending another day with me and some of your time here at the Sales Manager Academy podcast. As always, I'm your host, Omar, and I'll catch you on the next one.